And so with that, I will turn it over to Alice Kessler, who will give us a legislative update.
Thank you, Andrea, and it's really exciting to be here with our online community of supporters. I wanted to report to you some of the results that we had in Sacramento this year. First, on the legislative front, Equality California this year sponsored 17 pieces of legislation, and 11 of those passed the entire legislature. 9 of them became law, 3 as bills that were signed by Governor Schwarzenegger, and then 6 as resolutions that were passed by the legislature and did not require the governor's action to become the official policy of the state. Those resolutions focused on, first, urging repeal of Proposition 8 for being an illegal attempt to strip away the rights of LGBT Californians. And also urging Congress to act on the Matthew Shepard Hate Crimes Act, which President Obama recently signed, and the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which will provide LGBT Americans with protections in the workplace. But let's talk for a minute about the 3 bills that Governor Schwarzenegger signed into law. All 3 of these will go into effect on January 1st, 2010. And the first one is SB 572, the Harvey Milk Day bill. And this will establish May 22nd of each year, which was Harvey's birthday, as a state-observed day of special significance. And on this day, schools will also be encouraged to conduct commemorative exercises relating to the life and importance of Harvey Milk. We think it's going to be a great opportunity to talk to students about the contributions Harvey made to California as a civil rights leader and a trailblazer for equality. And I'm really excited that we're now in the process of putting together a curriculum that could be used as a model for schools to talk not only about Harvey's life, but about LGBT history and in general, all of the people and events in our movement that really continue to shape our state to this day. Second, SB 54 is another bill we sponsored that was signed into law. And this bill will clarify a very important issue that was unfortunately left open by the California Supreme Court when it ruled on the validity of Proposition 8. And that's how the state will treat couples who married in either one of the countries or other states that allows same-sex couples to marry. And I know that a lot of our members have questions about this bill and how it applies to them. And so for that reason, we've actually invited Ilona Turner from the National Center for Lesbian Rights here with us to tell you more about that bill and also answer any questions that you might have after the presentation. Finally, the governor also signed a bill, AB 1003. This was authored by Assemblymember John A. Perez from Los Angeles, who we hope will soon be the new Speaker of the California Assembly. This bill will allow LGBT community organizations that serve LGBT victims of domestic violence better access to state funding and resources that keep their programs running in this difficult economy. We believe that all victims of domestic violence, whether they are straight or LGBT, deserve access to effective and culturally competent services. So this bill will help to ensure that they get that. Looking forward to next year, the legislature is currently on interim right now. They are coming back in January. And so we're in the process right now of looking at bill ideas for next year, and that's a process that we very much want our members engaged in. So I encourage you to ask questions today, send us your ideas. You can always send your ideas as well to EQCA.org. Some of the best bills come from people in the community who've experienced a problem, and oftentimes there can be a solution through state law, and that's what Equality California is here to do, is to address those issues through the legislative process. So I encourage you to get in touch with us. Next year, we will also continue work on 6 bills that passed the first house that they were in this year. The legislative sessions are 2-year sessions, so some bills can make it through both houses in 1 year, and some may take a little longer as different issues are worked out. So we still have 6 pieces of legislation that are live and moving, and those will continue in January. And they're addressing issues ranging from mental health services for LGBT youth who are struggling with the coming out process, to keeping LGBT seniors in their homes upon the death of a partner, and also additional resolutions urging Congress to act on some of the very important bills that are right now pending, such as the Uniting American Families Act, which will allow binational same-sex couples to have the dignity that all families deserve, repealing the so-called Defense of Marriage Act, and urging the Food and Drug Administration to reconsider its discriminatory and scientifically unsound policy that currently bars gay and bisexual men from giving blood. Geoff mentioned the budget. I did want to touch on that as well. Next year we will be working very hard through the state budget process to fight any proposed cuts to HIV and AIDS services in our state. The bad news is that this month the legislature informed us that we're already looking at a projected $21 billion budget deficit. We can't allow that gap to be balanced on the backs of the most vulnerable people in our state, and that includes those in our community who are living with HIV and AIDS. So we'll be working very closely with the LGBT caucus and our Health and Human Services Network to prevent any cuts that would put the lives of members of our community at risk. Finally, I did have one last bit of good news to report that was a success from this year. Through our LGBT Health and Human Services Network, which is the newest project of the Equality California Institute and a coalition of over 50 LGBT community organizations, we were able to secure a nearly $500,000 grant through the State Department of Mental Health to conduct the first ever LGBT mental health needs assessment in our state. So we'll be working on this project over the next 2 years, and we will be able, through this process, to support programs and services that we know work to meet the mental health needs of our community. And since mental health is such a broad area, we can look at things like suicide prevention, substance abuse prevention, services for youth, services for seniors, and we'll be able to communicate to the state the best models for serving various segments of our community. And our hope is that through identifying those best models, we'll be able to leverage additional funding for them down the road. Before I turn it over to Ilona to talk a little bit more about the Marriage Recognition Act, I also did want to tell folks about a very important development that we all in the LGBT community should be tracking, and that is the redistricting process. Last year, the voters passed Proposition 11, which will create a citizens redistricting committee, a 14-member body, which will look at how legislative districts are drawn in California. And through this citizens committee, any Californian can apply if they qualify. There's currently a website through the state auditor's office called wedrawthelines.org. And that website has a wealth of information about what the criteria are for applying for the commission. We definitely want to see applications from members of the LGBT community, because how these lines are drawn will determine what our legislature looks like. It will determine whether we will continue to have seats that can be held by openly LGBT candidates. So I can't underscore enough the importance of the redistricting process and that we all get involved. And you can also find out more information about that on our website at EQCA.org as well.